Yeah, just keep following me in here. I've got so much left over. You can see the food. It's covered. Some of it's covered, but just go ahead and uncover it. We just had this huge banquet last night. I just got the last of the dishes back. I had help. Somebody helped me clean them, so I'm bringing them back home now. Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah, just go ahead and start eating. I didn't know what else to do but to leave it out and hope that a stranger like you'd come by who is hungry. So I welcome you into my house, and please enjoy. Here, have a seat. Sit right there, and yeah, go right ahead, and I'll just finish up my work if that's okay with you. Oh, you didn't hear about our banquet? I thought everybody would have heard about it from miles around by now. We had Jesus to dinner. You came to town to find Jesus? You just missed him, but maybe he'll be back. It was wonderful. Yeah, I'd be happy to tell you about it. You've come so far just to see Jesus. Oh, that's great. Well, I remember when I first met Jesus, he came to my house. I invited him to my house, and he was a perfect guest. You forgive me if I work on putting these things away, but there was so much to get ready for and so much cleanup now. It was a strange thing that happened last night. The reason we have so much leftover food is everyone's appetite sort of left them in the middle of the party. And it's no wonder. Jesus is an extraordinary person. I suppose I wouldn't be telling you anything new if you've come all this way to meet him. You've probably heard about him. Perhaps you heard of the time he first came to our house, and I was working so hard on cleaning and cooking, and my sister had left me to do all the work myself. I had gone in to Jesus and I had said, "Master, don't you care that my sister has left me alone to do all the work myself?" And Jesus said, "Martha, Martha, you are troubled and worried about so many things, but only one thing is needful. And Mary has chosen that good part." Well, I understood what he meant when he said that. But I didn't understand how it could be possible that he would allow Mary to sit at his feet the way the other men and the other students sat at the feet of a teacher. To let Mary, a woman, sit at his feet and learn of spiritual things. Well, I had hungered for the same thing. Mary and I had talked of it often, how we wished we had been born at a time and a place and at a gender we could be full part of everything spiritual that was happening. Instead, I chose to be a part by serving and hostessing, and I could come in and out and I could catch glimpses. But now Mary had just sat down and began listening. I didn't know, after I heard Jesus tell me Mary had chosen the best part, perhaps Jesus had invited her to sit and listen and learn of spiritual matters. But I knew that when he told me Mary had chosen the best part, he also invited me to join, and I did. And so it was very different from the spiritual teachers that I had served in my house before. I had heard things such as, "It's better that the Torah be burnt than that a woman be allowed to hear its words." Yes, there was a place in synagogue for us out of sight, just barely in earshot. And yes, every 7 years we were invited with all the children, the men and the women, to hear the words of the law during the year of remission. But this was different. Jesus at my house, teaching at my house and inviting my sister and then me to hear. Oh, what a wonderful time that began. And so it was. Jesus continued to return to my house time after time. And every time something more wonderful would happen. I remember one time, though, when he wasn't here and our brother Lazarus became ill. We sent for him. Mary and I sent the note ourselves by messenger. He was in a northern city. And we said, "The one whom you love is ill. Come quickly." Well, we heard later he had told his disciples not to worry, that Lazarus' illness was not an illness unto death, but an illness for the glory of God. And he remained 2 more days in that town. And then we had to send word. Lazarus died. Many came from Jerusalem, just 2 miles from our town of Bethany, but 2 hilly miles. They came because they knew Lazarus, and they came to comfort Mary, my sister, and I. 4 days had gone by after we had put him in the tomb, and I heard Jesus was approaching. So I went out to meet him, and I said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And Jesus said to me, "Your brother shall rise again." And I said, "I know he'll rise again in the last day, in the judgment, in the resurrection." And Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, yet though he lives, or yet though he dies, he shall live again." Do you believe this, Martha? I said, "Oh, I believe, Jesus. I believe you are the resurrection. I believe you are the life. I believe you are the Messiah of God who has come into the world." And so, after my confession, I ran back to my house, to my sister, and I told her, "Mary, come. The Master's here and he's calling for you." And so she rose up from her tears, and she came with me, come running with me to the Master. And she fell down at his feet. And the people who had been in the house comforting us, they came too. And so she was at his feet, and she said again, "Oh, Master, if you had been here, our brother had not died." Jesus said not a word. He looked at everyone weeping. You could tell he was groaning in the spirit. And then he looked up and he said, "Where have you laid him?" We said, "Come see." And we led him to the tomb. It was a lovely tomb with a new, fresh-hewn rock over the front of it so that no scavengers, man or beast, could enter in and harm our deceased brother. And so he cried. Jesus cried. He wept. And the people around said, "Oh, look how he must have loved him. He's crying. Could not this man who have opened the eyes of the blind have kept Lazarus from dying?" Then Jesus said something so astonishing none of us had ever heard before. He said, "Roll back the stone." Well, I rushed over and I said, "But Lord, it has been 4 days." He stinks by now." And Jesus looked right into my eyes and said, "Martha, did I not tell you that if you would just believe, you would see the glory of God?" I motioned for everyone to roll back the stone, and several men rolled the stone away. And then Jesus stood, and he looked toward heaven, and he said, "Father, I know that you always hear me, and I know that you hear me now, but I'm speaking for those around me, that they might know that you hear me, and that they might believe that you've sent me, and they might know that you are the living God, and that I am sent from you." And then he looked straight at the open tomb, and he shouted with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." I know the breath went out of me when I heard those words. Never expected. And shortly out came, bound hands and feet, still with the cloth on his face, Brother Lazarus came forth. It had been quite the ceremony. We had anointed him with hundreds of pounds of aloes and herbs and spices to keep down the stench, and as a respect for the body, we layered linen cloths and spices and more linen cloths and spices, binding first his hands and then his feet, and wrapping him all the way up to his face, his head, and covering his face. And out he came, waddling in his grave clothes. We had known that there was a purification process for all who were in the presence of a dead body. 7 days we were unclean. On the 3rd day, a clean priest came and sprinkled us, our house, and all of our things with hyssop and ashes from the altar. He would come back on the 7th day, as the plan was, to do the second cleansing, and then we would wash our garments on the 7th day and put on fresh clothes, and we would be clean at sunset. This was the 4th day. We saw the dead come forth. Jesus looked at us all breathless and staring. And he had to tell us, "Will you loose him and let him go?" What a silly thing. Of course. So those of us who were in the process of being clean had to make a decision. Were we going to touch what had been dead? For Lazarus had been dead. Were we going to become ceremonially unclean once again? Something went out of us. It didn't matter about ceremonially unclean and starting a 7-day process again. The man was alive. The man walked out of the tomb by the word of Jesus. We took off his grave clothes. We brought him home. Oh, we rejoiced. We gave banquet after banquet. People would come to see this risen Lazarus. There was even a plot to kill Brother. But that was spoiled. They wanted to kill him because they didn't want people to see the evidence of the resurrection that Jesus spoke of. You see, there were scribes who wrote out and copied the Pentateuch and the other books, the other prophets of the Bible. But the scribes were not the problem. There were Pharisees, and Pharisees were giving the law and the spiritual leadership to the people. But they were not the problem. There were the Sadducees. The Sadducees were sad, you see, because they did not believe in the resurrection. Yet brother Lazarus was raised from the dead by the word of Jesus. And so they wanted to kill him. But even though the Sadducees were the only ones that didn't believe in the resurrection, the Pharisees and the scribes joined the Sadducees in the plot to get rid of the evidence of the power of God through Jesus Christ. And so it was that the plot was foiled, and Lazarus came again to the banqueting table with Jesus, even last night, boldly showing himself before everyone. And it started out at such a joyous celebration. And then Jesus began talking about him departing this earth, him offering himself a sacrifice, him going back to heaven with the Father and sending us a comforter in his place so that he could be with us always. Jesus began talking about the plot to kill him, and that he would die, and that he would be crucified, and that he would rise on the third day, just the way Lazarus had rose on the fourth day by the word of Jesus. It may be then that the appetite of the guests began to diminish. I remember it was moments afterward that I saw my sister make her way, setting down the serving tray and going to Jesus, kneeling at his feet, and with tears from his words that he must die so that the Comforter could come, she began to weep upon his feet, and she bathed his feet with her tears, and she took her hair and she wiped his feet. She wiped her tears away with her hair. And then she reached inside her garment to where she kept her costly perfume, for she had spent a year's wages on spikenard carried from the Himalayas. And she had the spikenard brought to her for her wedding night, when she would anoint herself and she would anoint her bridal room for the night she would spend with her husband upon the time they were married. She was not betrothed. She was planning for the time when that would happen. And so she had carried that year's worth, that money that had been turned into costly spikenard. She had carried it close under her garment, in her belt. She had carried it in a special pouch for that special day. And I saw her reach as she knelt down and pull out that bag and untie it. And I saw her take that ointment and spread it tenderly and lovingly upon the feet of Jesus. Oh, the fragrance that filled the room was intoxicating. And then, breaking the silence, was Judas, who spoke out loud and clear, "Lord, reprimand this woman. She's wasting money. This could have been sold for a year's wages of a laborer, and the money be given to the poor. Reprimand her." Well, Judas was the one who kept the purse. He was the group treasurer, so to speak, and we suspected that he would take from the funds that had been given to Jesus by the other women, and He had many women who supported him, Joanna and Susanna, the wife of Chusa, Herod's steward, and many women gave to support Jesus and the disciples. They gave of their independent finances, they gave of their household funds, they gave of their time and their energy also to travel with him and see to his needs. But Judas kept the purse with the money in it. And so he had a concern about this money not coming through his purse. But Jesus would have none of it. And Jesus said, "Oh no, you will always have the poor with you." But what she's doing is anointing me for my burial. I'm still not sure exactly what that means, but I do know that Jesus once again defended Sister Mary. And she continued to anoint his feet until all of the costly perfume had been absorbed into Jesus. And Jesus said, "Forever this will be told of this woman, how she gave of her sacrifice." And truly it was a sacrifice, for Mary will never have enough money that we can see to buy again that much spikenard, the cost of a laborer's work for a year. And so I wonder if she was thinking perhaps of Jesus as even more than a Messiah, for she gave him of that costly ointment that she had saved for her wedding night, and she had anointed Jesus with it, perhaps in the stead of her bridegroom? Jesus, the bridegroom, Mary and Martha and Lazarus, his beloved, the people with whom Jesus shared his life. We know so little of Jesus, but what I do know is your trip is well worthwhile. For this same Jesus who opens the eyes of the blind, this same Jesus who straightens the legs of the crippled, this same Jesus who opens the hearing of the deaf, this same Jesus who cleanses the bodies of the lepers, this same Jesus who raised a little girl from the dead, this same Jesus who raised Lazarus from 4 days in the tomb, this same Jesus who preaches the kingdom of God is at hand, this same Jesus who says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." This same Jesus has sat where you're sitting. This same Jesus ate from the bowl in which you are eating. This same Jesus has breathed the air you are breathing. This same Jesus will be among us now and forever. This same Jesus is the Son of God, the Messiah, sent of God. You must meet and receive this Jesus as your Messiah.